Hey guys, welcome back to the Jays Without Podcast. I'm your host Jade, and today we're going to be recapping the Atlanta Falcons free agency moves so far this offseason. And I got to say, these moves that the team has made, I think they're not world hitters. They're not going to knock you out the park. These aren't signings of these super extravagant players, but what Ian Cunningham, who's the general manager of the Falcons, and Matt Ryan, of course, who played here for 14 years, and now he's a president of football operations. What they've done as a front office team of going out and getting just solid players to fill out the roster has been really good. So I'm going to get into that. I'm going to give my thoughts on that, my opinions on that. But before I do that, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and check us out here on YouTube. Camera's still not working on my computer, so unfortunately we're not able to have video forms of this. Well, you're not able to see me, I mean. But this is the best what we have right now, and so this is what we're gonna do. Keep doing it until that gets resolved. So I do apologize for the inconvenience there. But yes, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Um, and follow us on social medias, TikTok, Instagram, Jay's Fifth Down Pod. Have all bunch of content there for you guys. So please do that. Now, so after a very disappointing 2025 season for the Falcons that saw them missed the playoffs once again, fired their head coach Raheem Morris, and fired GM Terry Fontenot. They got rid of Kirk Cousins. They have let a lot of players go in free agency. Tyler Algier, he left. He's now with the Arizona Cardinals. Caden Ellis went back to the Saints. The offer went to the Bills. So a lot of some good core players for the team have left, and the Falcons in return have brought in some decent players to help fill out the roster. One of those being quarterback and bringing in Tua Tagovailoa, former starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins since 2020 when he got drafted there out of Alabama. I kind of did a video about Tua like a couple weeks ago, but to update here, just basically, if you guys didn't check that video out, I was basically saying like I think Tua is he's a guy. He doesn't have the biggest arm, um, and he's had some accuracy issues, and of course everybody knows about his concussions and things like that he's suffered. And over time, I've begun to realize that, and some people have helped me realize this, that um Tua was not playing behind the best offensive line in Miami during his tenure there. So I do feel like that may have played a part into some of his injuries and also um, some of his play, but also just you have to be able to protect the quarterback in the NFL, in order to win football games. And the Dolphins weren't able to do that on a consistent and efficient level the past couple years, and that I feel like led to some of Tua's deficiencies. But that's not to say he did struggle with some things, and and so the Falcons bring him in on a cheap like veteran deal, $1.3 million deal, to compete with Michael Penix to be the starting quarterback, which I thought was a good move. Michael Penix, as far as from what I hear on his injury timeline, is doing well. He's recovering pretty well in his rehab process, so I expect him to be a full go, hopefully by training camp. If not, then maybe a little bit later. But in the meantime, if he's not ready to go, then of course Tua will be the starting quarterback. And I think the quarterback market isn't that really that deep or good this offseason. So I mean, for the Falcons to get a guy who has started multiple years in this league, um, and has played at least for a couple of seasons of his career, play at a good high level. I think to bring him in at that price was a good. That was a good bargain. Tua is again, he's a guy. He's not going to launch it super deep, and everything, but he's a decent quarterback. I think for this price, the Falcons did a good thing bringing him in for insurance, and so I think with Tua, if he has to play, personally I would prefer Michael Penix to be playing as opposed to Tua. Um, but again, like I've had time to kind of reconsider some things and how I looked at Tua Tagovailoa as a player, and yeah, I do believe that if he has to play for us, then it won't be a complete bad thing. Now the rest of the Atlanta Falcons fan base, I don't know how they feel about that, like, or at least a lot of them, um, not too fond of the move. But I mean, that's every team with every type of signing for agency or whatnot, or trade. Like there's gonna be something that's gonna make somebody unhappy, and that's just how it is in this business. But just looking at the players that haven't signed. So again, yeah, Tua Tagovailoa, Jahan Dotson came in as well. Um, Former receiver for the Eagles and the Commanders. He's a decent player. I mean, receiver is a position that the Falcons desperately need help with. Drake London, we know what he can do, but again, the offense cannot just go through him entirely, and defenses, of course, will lock onto that. They'll center onto that. And you got to be able to just distribute and spread the football around. The Falcons struggled with that last year just simply because they did not have the production outside of Drake London to do much and to get the ball to. So now you have Jahan Dotson and Olamide Zaccheaus, who they also signed in free agency, used to play here before he left some years ago. So you got a familiar face in the building in him. So some decent receivers. I mean, are they like top 10, number two and number three receivers in the NFL? Of course not. But Jahan Dotson is very serviceable. He was very serviceable during his time in Philadelphia. And Zaccheaus is a very serviceable player too. He was serviceable during his time in Chicago, also. And I just feel like they were some good signings. Brought in Austin Hooper as well, another former Falcon. And Kevin Stefanski who likes to run a lot of those inline tight end blocking packages. He likes for his tight ends to, yeah, to be on line of scrimmage and block and sometimes chip or go. And really. So if you watch the Browns offense at any point last year, then you will kind of see maybe that's what he's trying to bring here. He's trying to implement here, and that's why he wants this tight end to have and like Austin Hooper out there along with Kyle Pitts, and I thought that was a great move, um, to bring in Hooper, um, to help him with that package. Then I signed Corey Levin, an offensive lineman, to I would assume to be the starting center for this year, unless they draft a center to compete with him. But more likely than not, Levin is going to be the starter. Then you have Samson Ebicom, Cam Thomas, Azeez Ojulari, Deshaun Hand, Chris Williams. All these are defensive linemen that were signed by the Falcons, edge rushers, edge players. Decent players. They'll give you like 5, 6 sacks a season type of players. They're not home run hitters, but they're players that will get the job done, that can fill the holes the Falcons needed to, that the holes on the team that need to be filled here in Atlanta, and I think they're decent pickups. Samson Ebicom, I mean, a couple years ago had 9.5 sacks. He hasn't really done much since, but he's a serviceable player. He can come in, he can rush a passer. His run defense is okay. I think that's something that he can improve on, and maybe he will improve on when he comes here to Atlanta. Then you have Azeez Ojulari, who the Falcons been trying to acquire since last year. Um, and a lot of fans wanted him here too. Of course, he went to Georgia and went to the Giants and played for the Eagles as well. So he's been around a little bit, but he knows the city well, and he is he's a decent pass rusher, and so I think he'll be a great addition to the Falcons defense, who have who for the first time was like top in sacks, or one of the top teams in sacks in a long time this past season, which is just really refreshing to see and and hear. And now they're just trying to continue to spread depth and build that unit properly on the defensive side of football, which is, I think, a great plan by the coaching staff, like Stefanski in the front office. Deshaun Hand, former player of the Chargers, he's a bit bigger body you can put in on the defensive line. Can probably move to different uh, fronts and have him line up a couple of different places depending on how he does with that. And mini camp and training camp, as far as that is concerned. Um, I mean, other than that, I mean, these are, yeah, good signings. I enjoyed the Falcons free agency so far. I mean, I say enjoyed, but I like it. It's been decent. Bringing in Christian Harris from the Texans. He's a solid linebacker guy. He's physical. Watching him when he was at Alabama. I think he'll be an interesting piece for the Falcons as well. Channing Tindall, former Georgia player. He is also a very serviceable ball player. And then Nick Folk and Jake Bailey. So you got your kicker and you got your punter. Um, as we saw with the Falcons last year, the kicking problems were a huge struggle. and they need to do something about that. So brought in Nick Folk, and also brought you have Hunter Jake Bailey. Um, so overall, I think the team has had a decent free agency so far. They're just going to have to pay Drake London at some point. You're going to have to probably pay Kyle Pitts at some point as well. Don't know how that's all going to work out for the Falcons, but this is a positive step. You got new coach, new. I mean, new front office members like the GM, and it seems like Ian Cunningham is trying to, uh, yeah, trying to just build this team obviously through free agency and through veteran acquisitions, just to kind of fill out and even out the roster, but then attacking the draft and maybe accumulate draft capital and address certain particular positions in the draft. Is what it seems like he's doing, and I don't have a problem with that method at all. I honestly don't. I think it's an efficient method. Seen the Eagles do it a bunch of times, and they're still doing it, and it's still working. I think the Falcons can do the same. So, um, I do believe that this has been a very interesting offseason, just seeing all the different moves that have been made. And sometimes I'll be like, you know what, man, the Falcons should have done that. They should have signed this player. But I think at the end of the day, it, it's where it is, because it's where it is, and these are these are the players that they have decided they want on the roster and on the team to help even it out and compete, in 2026. So we'll see how all that goes. So make sure you guys stay tuned for more content here on Jay's Fifth Down. Again, we're in the off-season period, so it's just a little bit of a dead points here and there, but trying to have as much out for you guys as possible. Hopefully, you know, um, hopefully that this will be a huge help and this will be a big turnaround for the Falcons. I hope it is. Um, and that Kevin Stefanski is the man for the job to get Atlanta back into the playoffs for the first time since 2017. Guys, it's been that long since the Falcons have sniffed the playoffs. 2017, the 2017 through 2018 season. So your Nick Foles was a quarterback for the Eagles. They won that magical run to Super Bowl, all that stuff, right? So, but present day, Atlanta Falcons, we'll see what they can do. So make sure you guys, yes, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for joining us here on Jay's Fifth Down. We appreciate your time, and we will see you next time on the show.